The check lay between us face up. $12,000. His handwriting in the corner. Neat. Confident. Like he believed it was enough to put the last nail in the coffin of my life's work. Go start over somewhere quieter, Kellen said, folding his hands like we were finalizing a business deal and not cutting the cord between a mother and the land she raised her sons on. I didn't speak right away. I stared at the check, then at his face. My boy, grown now, with pressed khakis and a collared shirt, wearing the scent of cologne I didn't recognize. His jaw was tight, not with guilt, but with resolve. He believed he was doing the right thing. That was almost worse than if he'd smirked. "This is from the ranch sale?" I asked, voice steady. Kellen nodded like it was a courtesy. "We got a good deal. Market's been soft, but I made some moves early. You said yourself it was getting too hard for you to manage everything out there." I watched the ceiling fan spin behind him. The breeze didn't reach me. "You sold it without telling me," I said. "I kept you out of the paperwork for your sake. The stress, the legalese, it's a mess. I wanted it clean." I leaned back in the chair. Heart steady now. I'd been preparing for this since last Thursday. Evan came to me that morning, eyes wide, voice low. He'd overheard Kellen on the phone talking to someone named Devon about signatures and a fast close. I'd called Claire Maddox within the hour. By nightfall, the ranch was in a trust with my name sealed across it like iron. I looked at Kellen, now my firstborn, once the boy who used to run barefoot through the wheat rows I planted. "Thank you," I said, finally, and slid the check into my purse without blinking. He didn't know. He really didn't know. "Let's have dinner soon," I added, rising. "Before I go." I drove until the road turned to gravel. Past the wooden gate, past the old well, past the barn roof, I patched myself the summer Kellen broke his arm. The land hadn't changed. The sky still stretched wide, same as it had 40 years ago, when I first stood here, with a deed in one hand and a baby in the other. I was 27. Widowed, no savings, just 2 boys, a borrowed pickup, and a patch of stubbornness that wouldn't quit. I planted seed with blistered palms, milked cows before dawn. When hail flattened our first crop, I sold my wedding ring to make payroll. I didn't cry when I buried their father, but I wept when the irrigation line finally held. And when Kellen wanted to study finance, I paid for it in cash. When his tech venture collapsed, I covered the debts. When he married a girl who liked the city more than the soil, I built them a house near town so they wouldn't have to see what dirt under fingernails looks like. I gave. I bled. And he sold it all. I sat on the porch swing with my coffee and stared out at the pecan trees, their leaves shifting gold in the wind. Every fence post, every row had a story. A scar. A memory. And now Kellen had tried to erase it all with a forged signature and a smug check. I pulled out my phone and dialed Claire Maddox. She picked up on the second ring. "Delora, I need to come in." A pause. Then he moved forward with it, didn't he? Closed it already. Handed me a check like I was a temp he was letting go. "Do you still have the envelope I gave you?" "In my safe. Signed and notarized." "Good," she said. "Come first thing tomorrow. It's time to talk strategy." I hung up and took another sip of coffee, my eyes still fixed on the land. This place wasn't just where I lived. It was who I was. And if Kellen thought he could take it without consequence, then he didn't know his mother at all. I wore the red blouse he always said made me look like fire. Paired it with the pearl earrings Owen gave me on our 20th anniversary. My hands shook only once when I clipped them on, but by the time I stepped out the door, they were steady again. Kellen was already waiting at the restaurant, waving like a proud host. "Mom," he said, standing to kiss my cheek. "You look radiant." I thanked him and took my seat. He ordered the most expensive wine on the list, as if this were a celebration instead of a funeral. For new beginnings, he said, lifting his glass. You'll love the apartment I picked out. Gated quiet near everything you need. I clinked my glass against his. You've thought of everything. He smiled all teeth. I really have. And the investment? It's going to be massive. I put the ranch funds into a startup with guaranteed returns. We're talking tenfold, Mom. You'll thank me in 5 years. I nodded, smiled, sipped. He kept talking about Algorithms Foreign Markets, a partner named Javier, who handles the heavy lifting. I kept nodding, playing the mother who was finally seeing the genius in her son. Under the table, I clicked the small signal button Claire had tucked into my purse. 5 minutes later, she entered the restaurant with a calm stride and a leather folder in hand. She approached our table as if she were a family friend stopping by to say hello. Kellen looked up, puzzled. Mom, who's this Claire Maddox? She said, sliding into the seat beside me. Estate attorney? We've met before. Though you probably don't remember. His face lost color. Why is she? Just here for dinner? I said, folding my napkin neatly and placing it beside my plate. And a little clarity. Claire opened the folder and laid out the documents one by one. The trust, the recorded footage, the comparison of signatures. Kellen's smile vanished like smoke in the wind, and then she handed him the photograph, the one of him signing the sale papers alone in his office. Kellen blinked down at the photo, then back at Claire, then at me. He looked like a boy caught sneaking out after curfew, but the stakes were so much higher than that. I don't understand, he said, voice too high to sound innocent. Claire didn't flinch. Let's walk through it. Shall we first this deed filed last week at the county recorder's office? Has your mother's signature. He straightened up, suddenly smug again, because she signed it. I brought the forms to her house. We discussed it over coffee. Claire tilted her head. Did you? That's odd. Because we have footage from the camera I installed 2 weeks ago in her living room. No one ever brought papers. But more importantly, this signature here. She slid another page forward side by side with a document from years ago. It doesn't match her verified signature on file. Not even close. Kellen scoffed, but there was sweat blooming at his collar, and the buyer, Claire, continued tapping the final document. Devin Cole. According to the contract, he paid $3.8 million for the ranch. But Devin Cole doesn't exist. The address listed for him belongs to an abandoned print shop in Nevada. The EIN fabricated. She let that hang in the air a beat too long. I don't. We also pulled wire transfer records she cut in. The supposed payment was routed through a crypto shell company registered offshore. That account, Kellen, is under your name, not Devin Cole's. Yours. He opened his mouth, closed it. The color drained from his face. You created a fake buyer, Claire said, voice steady, to funnel the money into a scam investment account, one you control. Kellen turned to me, voice cracking. Mom? I didn't mean I just thought I could triple it. I was going to give it back. I didn't answer. Claire finished the last sip of her water, then laid a single page on the table. You didn't just forge a signature. You committed financial fraud against your own mother. Kellen stared at the paper. And Owen, quiet until now, stepped forward from the back of the restaurant. Kellen sat slumped in his chair, staring down at his wine glass, like it might hold the answer to everything. His cheeks were drained of color, his shoulders hunched in defeat. I took a breath, steady and deliberate. Here's what's going to happen. He looked up slowly, eyes glassy. The confidence he wore so proudly before had evaporated. You're going to return what's left. Claire found the account with the remaining $300,000. That gets wired back to me first thing Monday morning. He opened his mouth, but I held up a hand. Then you're going to sell your car, your condo, whatever junk you bought with the rest. Liquidate every last thing that's in your name. That money goes to restitution. And then what he said quietly, almost bitterly. Then you work I folded my hands on the table. You'll live in the seasonal workers' shed behind the east barn. You'll wake up at 5, work until sundown. No salary, no special treatment, no title. For how long? 1 year, I said. 12 months. You'll learn every corner of the land you tried to steal. He swallowed hard. And if I don't agree, Claire leaned forward. Then we proceed with full civil and criminal charges. Forgery, fraud, elder financial abuse. You'll lose your freedom, not just your pride. Kellen sat very still. I studied my oldest son. For a moment I didn't see the boy I raised. I saw the man he chose to be. But something in his face shifted. He nodded once. I'll do it. Claire pulled a contract from her briefcase. We'll make it official. Monthly progress reports. No loopholes. As she explained the legal terms, I watched Kellen shrink further into his seat. Because deep down, he knew. The easy part was signing the papers. The hard part would begin at sunrise. It had been 3 months. Every morning before the rooster crowed, I heard his boots hit the ground outside the shed. No alarm clock, no prodding. Just the sound of a man learning what honest work felt like. Kellen didn't complain. Not once. His hands were cracked and blistered, his arms darker from the sun, and the sharpness in his voice had dulled. He hauled feed-repaired fence posts, weeded rows by hand. And each day he came to me for instructions, not approval. I gave him both in measured doses, mostly instructions. I wasn't ready for anything more. I kept my distance, spoke only about work, avoided eye contact, longer than necessary. The others on the crew had started treating him like any other hand, no favors, no scorn. Just another man in the dirt. It was exactly what I'd asked for. But sometimes alone in the kitchen while the coffee brewed, I thought about the little boy he used to be. The one who made me laugh so easily. The one who at 7 years old handed me a handmade ceramic mug with paint smeared across one side. Best Cow Boss, it read. The W in cow was upside down. I still had that mug. Back then, I thought I was raising a son who understood value not just in land, but in people. And then somewhere along the way, that boy disappeared, replaced by a man with slick shoes and a hunger for shortcuts. I'd spent years pretending I didn't notice the change, hoping time would soften whatever had hardened in him. Now I wasn't pretending. He was working, sweating, limping sometimes from sore legs, but never backing out. Still, I didn't know what to believe yet. Transformation, after all, can look a lot like performance until it holds through pain. That evening, I watched from the porch as he knelt beside a young pecan tree, his fingers checking the soil. And for just a second, I saw the boy again. The one who used to follow me through these same fields, asking why the cows lay down when it rained. It was a Tuesday when Kellen stopped me by the fence and pointed to the second row of pecans. That one's yellowing early, he said, squinting at the leaves. I dug around the base. Roots feel soft. I think its rot might have overwatered that side. I blinked, surprised. He wasn't guessing. He knew. We walked the row together, and sure enough, he was right. That tree was sick, and the others around it might follow if we didn't catch it in time. I'll trench it tomorrow, he offered. Let it dry out before the fungus spreads. I nodded. Good call? He didn't smile. Didn't wait for praise. Just turned and got back to hauling fencing gear. That night, Evan came by and joined me on the porch. We drank coffee in silence for a while, the kind of silence that doesn't need filling. He's different, Evan said finally. Maybe. No mom. Not just acting different. He's quieter. Calmer. I watched the horizon where Kellen had disappeared moments before, still working with a headlamp as dusk settled in. He studies, I murmured. I found an old soil biology book out on the workbench. Marked up, dog-eared. Evan raised his brows. You think it's real? I took a long sip. I don't know yet. He didn't push, just nodded and let it lie there between us. Later that week, Claire called to check in. He's met every condition so far, she said. Financials are tracking, no infractions, no missed days. He hasn't asked for anything, I told her. Not even a shortcut. Do you think he's doing it for you or for himself? I didn't answer. I wasn't sure. But I knew this. You can't fake sweat. You can't fake sunburn or calloused palms or the way his voice softened when he talked to the cattle now. There was still distance between us, still damage. But something was growing again, not fast and not guaranteed, but something. The next morning, he left a note on the kitchen table, started composting by the old oak. Thought it might help long term. It was the first time he'd planned for a future he hadn't tried to steal. It was near the end of the 10th month when Kellen asked if we could sit down. Not about work, not about the contract, just talk. We sat on the porch steps, not at the table. He didn't look at me at first, just stared out at the barn where the lights were still on. I used to hate this place, he started. Not because of the work, I think because of how much it meant to you. And how little I felt I mattered in comparison. I didn't respond. I let him keep going. You'd wake up before us. Run circles around everyone. Fix things, manage payroll. Tend the fields. Mend the fence, cook dinner, all while never asking for help. I didn't know how to be seen around someone who never needed anything. I turned to look at him. He looked older now, even under the porch light. Thinner too, and quieter in the way people get when they've finally heard themselves out loud. I didn't want the ranch, he said. Not really. I wanted a piece of it to mean something. I wanted to feel like I wasn't just the weak link, the one you had to clean up after. That's not how I raised you, I said, my voice steady. I know, he replied, but it's how I saw myself. He finally looked at me. I didn't try to steal it because I wanted land. I did it because I thought it was the only way you'd ever really look at me. The wind moved gently through the trees behind us. I see you now, I said. He nodded, eyes glassy. I'm not asking for forgiveness. Not yet. I just wanted you to hear me. I reached for the mug beside me. Coffee gone cold. I heard you, I said quietly. That's a start. He stood, waited for a beat, then walked back toward the bunkhouse without another word. The porch felt heavier after he left, but not in a bad way, just in the way things do when they've been shifted even slightly toward truth. The contract sat between us on the kitchen table. Simple. Clean. A year of labor behind it, and pages of clauses ahead. Kellen read each line slowly, pen in hand, no rush in his eyes. He had repaid $800,000. Not the full amount, but more than I ever thought I'd see again. Claire said the rest could be written off under the circumstances, but I wasn't after numbers anymore. This wasn't about restitution. Not now. This doesn't make you heir, I said. It makes you a junior partner. You'll have a say, but only after you've listened. He nodded. You'll still report to me. Understood. You'll stay on the ranch. No new apartments. No fancy offices. That's what I want. He didn't ask what came after. Not about wills or deeds or inheritance. I think we both knew that wasn't the point. He signed, slid the paper across the table. I didn't offer my hand. He didn't expect it. We nodded just once, and that was the most honest agreement we'd ever made. Later that evening, I sat on the porch alone. Coffee warm in my hands, the sky turning that soft shade of burnt lavender it always does in late spring. Kellen walked the eastern fence-line toolbox slung low on his hip. He stopped once crouched and adjusted something at the post. Checked it twice before moving on. It was the same stretch Owen used to patrol after storms. The same line I walked with him once 2 decades ago when the foundation had just begun to feel permanent. I watched Kellen until he disappeared around the bend. No need to call out. No need to follow. Not tonight. Inside, the ink on the contract was drying. In the shed, I knew he'd left his boots lined up neat by the door, and in the soil beneath us, the roots were still holding. Maybe trust is like that. Not loud, not announced. Just something you check on from time to time, quietly, deliberately, until one day you realize it's taken hold again.